Yo, yo, boxing aficionados. What's up? What's going on? Hey, yo, check this out. I'd like to talk about, I'd like to talk a little bit about Vasily Lomachenko's next opponent, his next dance partner. I'd like to talk about none other than the technician, Jamaine Ortiz. So, the first time I got to see the Jamaine Ortiz in action was on a top ranked card against a top ranked prospect. He was a fairly highly touted signing. His name is Joseph Adorno, and the Adorno brothers were at one point viewed as, high-level prospects. Possibilities of greatness were seen in the Adorno brothers, Puerto Rican from Pennsylvania. And to say the least, that Joseph Adorno had been a disappointment as far as making weight and stuff. Like, I think he started at 130, I believe, and had to go up to 135. Anyway, he had blown weight a couple of times and finally put him in. He was undefeated, showed great power, very good power at that weight class, which is 130, 135, whatever. And they put him in against another undefeated fighter, being Jamaine Ortiz, who is out of Worcester, Massachusetts. He's Dominican and Puerto Rican. Favors a lot of to the Dominican, shades to the Dominican side. I see in his demeanor and in his the people who follow him. A lot of Dominicans follow him. He's got a good following out there in Worcester, Massachusetts. Anyway, point is, it was one of those fights that I really love to see the 15-0, 14-0 fighters go against, another 14-0, 15-0 fighter. It's for me, it's a crossroad fight. It's like, who's the bigger prospect? So why that fight had a lot on the line is because, the Jamaine Ortizes of the world, who is promoted by, has signed to a small promoters like the Jimmy Burkefields, the Joe DeGuardias, those guys, they have to go through a lot to get on television, right? And Jamaine Ortiz, I think he had been on the Showtime cards, right? The Showtime cards. What's those cards where they have like prospect cards? I forget what's the name of their show. I hardly watch Showtime, but that's neither here nor there. It's a good program for watching up and coming prospects. And Jamaine Ortiz, like I said, he's a consummate boxer. Calls himself the technician. 14 and he's currently 16-0 with 8 knockouts. So he has a little bit of power. Anyway, when you're signed to small promoters like that, those fighters, their mouth waters when they get to fight on big platforms against, more highly touted prospects signed to big promoters like Top Rank. So they are going in there to expose. They're going in there to expose the bigger prospect. And so the bigger name prospect, right? In this case, Joseph Adorno, he has to watch himself. He has to watch his back. And you got to see what those prospects are really made of. Do they deserve the contract that they have? Do they deserve being so highly touted? They're going to go into the ring facing a guy who's hungry and resentful that they're not getting the TV days, that they're not being bandied about, that they're not talked about by Joe Tessitore and things like that, or Timothy Bradley. That they got to fight on in obscurity, right? Club fights. So so make no mistake about this. That's why I like those fights. I love fights like that because who needs a belt to be on the line in those fights, right? The belts, who needs a belt? It's about more than that. You're fighting for for pride. You're fighting for recognition. And recognition in and of itself is a strap. It's a belt. You get your name called, right? So Jamaine Ortiz ended up getting dropped twice. But that doesn't say half the story. Because despite getting dropped twice by the much ballyhooed Joseph Adorno, he still performed well enough to get a draw. So imagine if you get dropped twice. I think it was an 8-round fight. You get dropped twice in an 8-round fight and you still get a draw? Man, you did a hell of a performance. Again, I'm going to repeat it. If you get dropped twice in an 8-round fight against a highly touted prospect, fighting on their card, on their promoter's card, and you still get a draw, oh man, you put on a hell of a performance. And Jamaine Ortiz did just that. He acquitted himself very well. It was a hell of a fight. I was looking for the rematch. It was one of the best fights of that year. I think it took place in, might have been in the bubble. I'm not sure. No, I don't think it was in the bubble. It was 2021. Yeah, it was 2021. They were out of the bubble, I'm sure. And I was looking for the rematch. I was looking forward to the rematch. But alas, it didn't happen. I don't know if Joseph Adorno ducked him. I know that it's Top Rank's way, to get rematches made. It was a good fight. Why not do it again? So I don't know what happened. Joseph Adorno then comes back, and I think he blows weight again. Or he was slated to fight, and he blew weight again, and then he got cut, basically, by Top Rank. He's since gone on to fight on a Showtime card, PBC card, I believe, and he got stopped by La Salsa, the Dominican. Oh man, I forget my man's name. La Salsa, and I love that guy. The guy that he's the second. He's closer to Ali, than the Nico Ali Walsh is. I'm gonna tell you right now, he's like the Ali reborn. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so that's what happened to Joseph Adorno. Jamaine Ortiz instead comes back gets invited back to Top Rank to fight none other than Herring, Jamel Herring. Jamel Herring rebounding at 135 after losing to Shakur. And some people thought that Jamel Herring was going to beat Jamaine Ortiz. Jamel Herring was definitely the favorite fighter. But, I saw it differently. I didn't see Jamel Herring being able to do anything with Jamaine Ortiz. Jamaine Ortiz impressed me that much. And I believed that what happened was always going to happen. I believe that Top Rank, in some weird way, and I know that Bruce Trampler hates to hear this, but I believe that Top Rank fed Jamel Herring to Jamaine Ortiz. I believe he was fed to Jamaine Ortiz. Hey, listen. Why? Why do I believe he was fed to Jamaine Ortiz? First of all, as a reward to Jamaine Ortiz to keep the relationship going with Jimmy Birchfield, to get Jamaine Ortiz's name bigger recognition. And I know what people are going to say. Well, he's not a top-ranked fighter, so why would they do that? Well, at Top Rank, what they do is that they play chess, right? The top-ranked matchmakers, Top Ranks, they've been around for 60 years, man. I mean, 60 years, right? And what they do is that it's not just simple matchmaking. It's not just simple, straightforward fights and matchmaking for willy-nilly. What they do is that they make fights with two, three fights, looking at a chessboard, 2-3 fights down the road. Now, when Jamaine Ortiz was announced as Jamel Herring's next opponent, immediately what I thought was, well, what they're trying to do is build up Jamel Ortiz so that then they can feed Jamaine Ortiz. Dig that, dig this, dig the strategy. So that they could then feed Jamaine Ortiz to one of their prospects. So Raymond Murataya, Davis, was it Keyshawn Davis? That's what I thought they were going to do, right? Because they couldn't really build a Jermaine, they wouldn't be really building a Raymond Murataya or Keyshawn Davis off of a win versus Jamaine Ortiz unless they build a Jamaine Ortiz off a win over Jamel Herring. So I thought what's going to happen, either it's going to be a crossroads fight for Jamel Herring where he gets to show that he can, get another good fight and then possibly challenge for one of their 35 belts. Because let's say right now, for example, they have the guy who fought Cambosos. What's his kid's name? Man, I should know his name. I call him Devin Haney. I call him Devin Malignaggi, right? So after getting beat down by Shakur Stevenson, you think you can sell a Jamel Herring versus Devin Haney fight? No, you can't, right? You can't sell that. But if Jamel Herring can beat a Jamaine Ortiz and show some viability, then maybe you can start saying that Jamel Herring, he looks better at 135, and and then they'll start talking up his experience over, maybe he can outbox Devin Haney or whatever, the schlock that they put forward. But I see through the schlock. I understand how it works. But first he would have had to gotten through Jamaine Ortiz, and no way did I think he was going to get through Jamaine Ortiz. Jamaine Ortiz was just way too young and way too good for Jamel Herring to get through at this point in his career at 135. So again, and I think the Bruce Tramplers and the Brad Goodmans of the world know this. And so what do you get out of Jamaine Ortiz beating a Jamel Herring? Well, you get a Jamaine Ortiz beating a notable name, an ex-champ, in a supposedly underdog position, right? Because what people need to understand is that sometimes underdogs are just underdogs because they're the lesser known commodity, right? They're the lesser known fighter, and that right away puts you as the underdog. So rightfully so, Jamel Herring was shaded to win. He was, picked to win in that fight by the Boxing Voice and all these other guys. I saw it different, and I tweeted about it. If y'all can find that tweet, believe me, the record is there. So anyway, so now they had Jamaine Ortiz, and again, so that he goes on and he puts on the performance that he did against Jamel Herring. Now he's got a name on his resume. I thought that they were then going to turn that into a fight against Ramon Murataya or Keyshawn Davis and, build their resumes off of a guy who beat, who retired Jamel Herring. So I thought that that's what they were going to do. But lo and behold, what happens? Lomachenko needs a dance partner. He's coming back from the war in Ukraine. You know, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I'm not even going to go there. So he's coming back from the war in Ukraine and blase. He needs a dance partner, but he also needs one that is going to get him ready for a possible Devin Haney fight. A possible fight against Devin Haney. So who best to bring him back against than Jamaine Ortiz? Jamaine Ortiz has now reeled off a number of wins in a row, including Jamel Herring. Bring him back to the platform, pay him a nice little salary, you know, a nice little payday, and see if you can retire Lomachenko the way you did Jamel Herring. And the correlations or the what they call that, the optics are good, right? He's coming off a couple of wins. He's fighting against a guy who's smaller than him, just like he was fighting against Jamel Herring, who was coming up from 130. He's in his right division, 135. He's full of life. He's exposed Joseph Adorno. And he's shown, you know, enough power at 8 knockouts, at 16-0, and calls himself the technician. Can sell a few tickets. They bring that back, put it in probably at the Garden. I'm not sure where they're going to put it, but he can sell a few tickets if it's on the East Coast. And voila, you got Lomachenko versus Jamaine Ortiz. What Lomachenko gets out of this is a dance partner who's a technician, a true boxer, a young guy who can help him get ready for Devin Haney. So it's all symmetrical, all makes sense, all quite wrapped up in a bow. It's the Top Rank way. It's what they do. There's always a storyline. There's always a sense of purpose to each and every bout. That's why I watch Top Rank fights, because they tend to make sense. They tend to lead somewhere. And most fighters can both get something out of it. Jamaine Ortiz, let me tell you, if Jamaine Ortiz can go 12 rounds with Lomachenko, 10 rounds or 12 rounds with Lomachenko, you know, not quit, not get battered too tough, walk out of that ring on his own 2 feet, maybe perhaps even win a few rounds, 4 or 5 rounds, you know. If he wins 3-4 rounds, makes Lomachenko look bad. A Lomachenko who hasn't been in a ring professionally against a live body in over a year now, I believe, coming back from a war. If he can do that to a Lomachenko, Jamaine Ortiz wins. Jamaine Ortiz is now a guy who went, the distance with Lomachenko. If he beats Lomachenko, then boom, he's like, he can have his cake and eat it too, right? He can, Jamaine Ortiz can only win, for the most part, can only win for this experience. Lomachenko, on the other hand, has a lot to lose, because if this kid makes him look bad, or if Lord forbid he loses to this kid, then the best he can do is try to rematch him, and he's going to have a lot of explaining to do for the rest of his career. Jamaine Ortiz beats Loma, he's going to be right up there in line for a Devin Haney fight. It's as good as fighting for a belt. A win over Lomachenko, a fight against Lomachenko for a Jamaine Ortiz is as good as fighting for a strap. Again, the recognition is the strap, you dig? And kudos to Top Rank for bringing Jamaine Ortiz back and rewarding him for his performance against Joseph Adorno. the bottom line, he's being rewarded and treated right by Top Rank. They've done right by Jamaine Ortiz, by his promoter Jimmy Birchfield. And further down the line, you think that Jimmy Birchfield is not going to take another of his fighters and bring him to Top Rank to fight? Or, if he happens to catch lightning in a bottle and is looking for a co-promotional deal for that fighter in the future, you think he's not going to call Top Rank? Of course he's going to call Top Rank. Top Rank's done right by him. You dig? Anyway, it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. I'm trying to give y'all just a little bit of game so y'all can view these fights with a little bit more of an understanding and maybe less complaining. If you understand what's going on, you're going to probably complain less about it. Next Level Boxing Talk. I'm out. Peace. God bless.